Hey, Foot Clan. We want to take a second and thank our great friends of today's show, our sponsor, PristineAuction.com. Look, if you won your championship or you're just a crazy sports fan, you want to get some memorabilia to commemorate the great season, go to PristineAuction.com. They have hundreds of amazing items, so much cheaper than you think that you can get these items, and they're all guaranteed authentic. Daily auctions. Go today to PristineAuction.com.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Hey, Foot Clan. Hello, new listener.
Ooh,
Welcome.
I thought you were
to
going,
the
hello,
show.
New York.
No, not yet. We'll be in a little while.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. It's Thursday, March 24th. We are the Fantasy Footballers. Andy Holloway joined by Jason Moore and Mike, the Fantasy Hitman Wright.
I'm feeling loose today, fellas.
Are you?
I limbered up. I had to hit the yoga after my youngest son thought I looked like Ricky Gervais.
You
with a
didn't
shirt
get
off.
to talk about that yesterday.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
You can intro the show with that. Mike, the Fantasy Hitman.
So if you didn't see my tweets, my youngest son, who is 2, saw my wife browsing the Facebook feed, and there was a funny picture that Ricky Gervais had taken of himself, purposefully embarrassing, unflattering shot of himself. And my son said, "Hey, it's Dad."
It looked just like you from that angle.
And I wept, and I was sad, and it's probably the most liked tweet I've ever sent out in my life. So I'm back in the gym, folks.
You're back in the gym. It takes your 2-year-old calling you a fat Ricky Gervais to get you back in the gym, but you're there.
That's some shame.
Yeah, it takes something special at this point in our lives, you know. So we have a good show for you today. We've got some tips and tricks for fantasy owners for their off season, for this time of year. We're in it right now. We know it kind of never ends with the NFL. You got a bunch of rules that just got passed. You have the combine that just went by. The draft will be here soon. Free agency's been going wild. But this is a different time of year, obviously. You're not doing week-to-week lineup changes to your team. You are preparing for next year. And so we have, I think we got 10 different tips and tricks of the offseason we're going to bring to you, things you should be thinking about, and just kind of orienting your mind to what to do right now.
Yeah, you got to prepare your mind and your body for the upcoming season because it's a grind. You got to get ready.
Of joy, a joyous grind. And then we've got the mailbag today, some voicemail questions, some email questions that have been sent into the show by our listeners. So we want to answer those. If you want to follow the show, you can do so on Twitter at the FF Ballers. If you want to follow each of us, I am at Andy Holloway, and that's HOLLOWAY. I have some Little League trophies where they misspell that with an A. So I need to make sure the world knows that it's H-O. And then you can follow Jason at JasonFFL. Follow Mike at FF Hitman. Check us out on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Snapchat. We're on everywhere. Everywhere that there is, everywhere that stuff is, we're there.
And on YouTube, we have our YouTube exclusive show after the show.
Yeah.
And so make sure you subscribe there if you want to see what's going on after the show.
Some people have said we need a show before the show as well.
Come on, people. We can only give so
much. They said I often allude to conversations we have before the show gets started. And so where's the show before
just
the show?
leave the cameras
so
rolling.
we should
Now
just
this is the show during the show right now. We're doing that right now.
Full Big Brother. We never leave the room and leave
Tap
the cameras on.
All right, before we get into the news, quick question of the day. What is the player that you just want on your team and you will do what it takes to acquire, which is not good fantasy football probably?
No. Well, it is because, look.
So maybe the question's more, what player do you really want as opposed to giving your whole team for him? But
I would agree. Oh, yeah, you can't give up your whole team. However, so much of the factor of fantasy football, there's the winning and the greatness that comes with that, but there is also the fun, and we here at the Footballers, we do focus a lot on the fun. It's a game. You're doing it to have fun with your friends. You have something extra to talk about. So you cannot ignore the fact that you're still playing a game and you got to have fun.
It is more fun to root for a player you love than to root for your home team's arch rival's running back.
I've done it.
Yeah, me too.
I've done
and
it.
it's not fun. I mean,
It's fun to win.
It's confusing.
Yeah,
You,
it's
you
really
you better win that championship when you're rooting for that guy.
Otherwise, you.
All right, well,
feel real bad.
I'll hop in and answer this question first.
So who do you want?
You know who I want? I just want. This is really, I mean, I think everybody wants him because he's very good. But Odell Beckham Jr. is a guy that I have never in any of my leagues. I mean, it's only 2 years, but in all of that time, in all of my leagues, I've never come close to having him on my team, and I love watching him. I want to have stock in Odell Beckham. I think that he could take that leap forward, and next year, the way we talk about Antonio Brown, we could be talking about, Odell Beckham is the absolute number one must-have. So I'm just really excited for him. I want him. I'm going to try to get him this year. Watch out.
True story about Odell Beckham. His rookie season, I was being a waiver wire predator, so to speak, in my paid league, and I was all over, and I'm always the one who I make the pickup of a running back who I think something sneaky is going to happen, and this was Andre Williams' rookie year as well. And something had happened with Jennings, or I was concerned about Jennings' health. And this was when the week Beckham was returning, and I was debating, do I pick up Beckham or Williams?
Oh.
I went Williams.
Oh.
And then, of course, Beckham. And Beckham scored his very first game. He didn't turn into the league winning Odell Beckham until a little bit later, but he would have been on my roster. So that was
you would have hung on to him.
He burns me a little bit because I screwed it up.
Andre Williams let you down. He's been letting people down for many years.
Jennings did get hurt that week. So
you patted yourself on the
I was like,
back.
yeah, I'm awesome, and then I was terrible.
Look, I'm gonna go with Todd Gurley. I'm gonna do what I can to get Todd Gurley. We talked about this on the election show on Tuesday, so if you missed that, by the way, that was a very fun show.
Yes.
And so we'll go through the results of that. Do we do that today?
I think we'll allow the voters,
A little bit more
unlike Arizona.
Oh, that was brutal.
We will allow the voters to get their vote in. We will keep the polls open.
We drove home from the flag football game last night, and there were lines down the street in the pitch dark because
After everything had already
closed.
the polls had closed, everything had been done.
Which good. We like the turnout, but anyway, moving on. We're not gonna stay there.
No, we won't. But look, I'm gonna say Todd Gurley. I think more than ever a workhorse, foundational fantasy football back. I still think that is how you win championships in fantasy football. Yes, it's been a little bit of a struggle to find that consistency, but Mike walked through the wide receivers too. It's not like it's just a running back problem. It's a fact that some players bust, some players don't. Some players get injured, some players don't. Gurley gives me, I believe, the highest odds at both health and success this year, even above Le'Veon Bell. We're getting our rankings in order. We're going to deliver those to you guys very soon, our initial rankings. So get excited about that. We've been working on them. Teaser there, Gurley and Lev Bell are both in my top 5, but I think Gurley is safer. I think Gurley is one of the safest picks outside of maybe Adrian Peterson that you can select, and I want him on my team for the upside, mixed with that safety, the youth, what the team does, and the pace he was on last year. So I'm going to just go with Gurley. I'm going to try to get him. That's it.
And I am unashamed to say David Johnson.
Who?
David Johnson.
There we go.
Sure, I completely admit there
Sorry.
could be a slight bit of homerism built in, but like we talked about, there is the fun aspect. He's on my team, and I think he's a top-level talent and beast of a running back on a great offense. So he is a guy that I'm going for. As of this point, I will give a slight spoiler alert for my rankings. David Johnson is ahead of Todd Gurley in my rankings, and I will draft accordingly because I want David Johnson on my team.
He is ahead in mine as well.
Well, okay. That's fine.
There's
That's
hot
fine.
takes in this
Yeah.
room today.
Yeah. And what team do you guys root for?
Certainly not the the Los Angeles
Yeah,
Rams.
we're screwing up Los Angeles.
It's hard to change habits. I'm almost, we're pretty old.
Yeah. The Chicago Cardinals.
All right, before we get into the tips and tricks of the offseason, I do want to jump into the news. There's a lot going on, so let's shoot through these pretty quick.
news and notes from around the league.
All right, the Bears report that Kevin White is 100% healthy.
That's great. That's great news.
Better than last year when he was 100% unhealthy.
No. Day to day.
Always day to day.
And better than all the rookie wide receivers this year, in my opinion.
All right, Dolphins coach Adam Gase has said that the tight end position has been one of the strengths of his offenses. Jordan Cameron, Dion Sims.
Yeah.
Are there things in store for you, Jordan Cameron?
There very much could be. They say that Gase likes him, and that's not a joke. That Gase offense has used a tight end. If you recall, one Julius Thomas was a
Martellus
monster,
Bennett.
and Bennett in his time,
best
and
year.
then it turned into Zach Miller. So Zach Miller, a guy that people had written off as in he's not going to really play anymore in the NFL. So there is potential here for Jordan Cameron, and if Cameron can't get it done, Dion Sims is a name to monitor.
Chris Johnson re-signed with the Cardinals. I think we missed this news blurb on the last show. We did not bring him up. Obviously, this is something that maybe outsiders will look at the team and say, oh, no, how much of a – I mean, I've got that question before. How much of a detriment now is Chris Johnson to David Johnson?
None. I would say none, but he would be a high-level handcuff, in my opinion.
That's right. That's fair. He had a very good year last year, broke down, got hurt. David Johnson came on the scene, exploded, and Keim, the GM of Arizona, has come out and said David Johnson's the foundational back. We expect a lot of work. But Chris Johnson could get, if the Cardinals are ahead in the, they were a 13-3 team last year. If they're ahead in a lot of games, Chris Johnson could mop up and be a really good handcuff.
Or like halfway through the year, Johnson goes down, or David Johnson goes down. Chris Johnson has fresh legs. Could carry your fantasy team.
All right, Roger Goodell said that they will be looking at the Josh Gordon reinstatement in the next week or so. So good news for you making decisions out there. It seems like it's going to be a more near-term decision than a long-term one. We just talked about this on Tuesday. Also, the Rams are next year's Hard Knocks team.
Oh, yay!
Now, they have moved to Los Angeles.
Yes.
And obviously this is Hollywood, baby. This is apparently they have updated the intro music to Hard Knocks now that they've added
the super epic Hard Knocks.
Yep.
It can get better?
It can get better, and with, the Rams obviously being the focus, Jeff Fisher, they've released the music. Did you hear this yet?
No, we have a clip.
It's it's pretty it's amazing.
Okay.
Here it is.
Okay. Oh, come on.
Perfect.
You built me up.
Jeff Fisher and the Rams will be the focus of the new series Hard Knocks, an 8-8 season.
We will get to watch a lot of behind-the-scenes footage of punting practice, of formations, of taking that long snap, and it's going to be very
Now, we
fascinating.
decided, right, that we can kind of attack the Rams a little bit more viscerally today because we decided they don't have any fans. Is that?
Well, they don't have an established fan base now.
They're in transition. They're on the buses, and so you can mock them a little bit on the ride.
I got to think people in St. Louis are unhappy, and they would be mocking them, and Los Angeles hasn't really come all the way on board yet. So, mock away.
I have to feel that the majority of the Rams fans would actually side with us on the coaching decisions made by Jeff Fisher.
Yeah, I would agree.
For sure.
I would agree. And it'll be interesting. Hard Knocks is good no matter what team's on there. It's a great show.
Keenum versus Foles. Get ready.
Hey, you'll get to see Todd Gurley, and that is exciting.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, what else do we have here? Jordan Matthews, they say they're going to try him out at outside receiver to see how he looks. Honestly, is it the devil you know or the devil you don't know? Like, what do you want from Jordan Matthews here? Like, if you move him to the outside, you lose the stability of what you know he could do on the inside. Maybe he gets less overall receptions. He's less of a PPR value, makes more big plays. If they kept him outside, it worries me a little bit.
No,
because he hasn't done it in the NFL.
Sure, but let me ask you this. In general, just positionally, do you look in fantasy football to have the outside wide receiver or the slot guy?
Yeah, it's very hard to put up a fantasy season in the slot.
Exactly. And so now you've got to keep in mind he's 6'3". 6'3", that's an out. I mean, that's 6'2" is a great height. That's Des Bryant. That's a good outside wide receiver. I love the fact that they're going to be trying him out on the outside and that they're doing it early in the OTAs. And if it doesn't work out, they'll put him back in the slot. They're just going to test this and see. And I think that's where he can provide more value.
All right. There have been a number of rule changes. We're going to actually discuss those in the show after the show on YouTube, but there are 2 specific rule changes we want to bring up on the news today that will have an impact on fantasy players in some capacity. The first one is that touchbacks have been moved to the 25-yard line, making it even less tempting to take it out of the end zone. So who do we have to say goodbye to in fantasy football relevance?
There's a few types of players, but the one who comes to my mind is Cordarrelle Patterson. You better work on those receiving route running skills, my friend.
It's just another step for safety, I guess, and it's going to limit guys. Like if Amir Abdullah is not really a running back that can deliver, like if he doesn't early in the season, his value is on returns. His value is on the return game. So those returns are just going to statistically go down in quantity.
Now, punt returns are still alive.
They let you do those?
Yeah, Jeff Fisher will
Jeff Fisher
ensure that there are
Competition
plenty of people to return punts.
I have a feeling J.J. Zachariason will love this
his
show.
arsenal of gifts for Jeff Fisher is going to go through the roof.
He has tweeted so many Jeff Fisher gifts that the first thing I think of when they were named on Hard Knocks was him.
Oh, like what is the late round QB saying?
Yeah, is how happy he must be. It's like his birthday. All right, what else do we got here? The IR designation to return. What is the story with that, Jason?
So that has changed a little bit this year. The way that it's worked is you can always put a player when they're injured on IR and they're done for the year.
One per year.
You can put one on IR designated to return. Well, it's still the same that way, but what used to happen is you had to, when you place them there, you have to say, okay, I am putting them on IR designated to return. So we know right when they're injured, okay, they can come back in 8 weeks. They're not gone.
Which for fantasy owners means maybe we invest a late pick in them, you stash them on your bench.
Yeah, you keep them on your IR. Now, you do not have to designate that when you put them on. So
it can be 6 weeks into the season.
Yeah, well, when they get injured, okay, I'm just putting them on IR, and 5 weeks later, they're healing a little bit. I'm going to move them to the designated to return.
But
they
still only
get one. So we'll just track that as the season goes on. When a player gets injured, we need to know they can always come back so long as obviously not from devastating injury, but it's something to keep in mind for next year.
All right. Well, do we want to get into the tips?
Sure.
We ready to go? So what we want to do is equip you on how to think about your fantasy team in the offseason. So we've assembled a number of tips and tricks for this offseason, things we want you to be thinking about, things that are important. And Mike's going to kick it off with the first one.
Number 1, we need to reflect and react to last year, the highs, the lows. Even if you won your title, you always need to be looking back, say, what went right, what went wrong, and something that I specifically wanted to touch on was the guys who they won't be ready for the start of the season. I'm talking specifically about a guy
is this something that you learned last year? So you're giving an example of that?
Yeah, it's not so much that I learned it, but last year there was the combo for Todd Gurley where I believe in the talent. However, I let the missing of games combined with my doubt in the power of the Rams offense, I let that cloud my judgment of when I should jump in on Gurley, where it was like a 4th, 5th round, and I was like, maybe 6. So I didn't get any shares of Todd Gurley. So I let the combo of those things cloud my judgment over the talent and the opportunity that Todd Gurley had. Whereas before, let's go a couple years back when I knew Josh Gordon was going to miss 2 games, I drafted him everywhere. But this year, I let the combination of missing games combined with something else get in the way of something that I knew it shouldn't, but I let it freak me out just too much and affect my judgment.
That's fair. If you ask me what one of the things I look back on last year, the good and bad, because that's what we're talking about, kind of reflecting on the season, I look at guys like Danny Woodhead and Gio Bernard, and they weren't all year round a guy you could lean on, but they carried teams for significant parts of the season. And for me, you talk about tendencies. I have a hard time investing draft picks into those players because I'm kind of always investing into ones or guys that I think will become that and then be a long-term solution, less about the Bilal Powells, the Danny Woodheads, the Gio Bernards, those guys that actually carried teams for many weeks. I mean, Bilal Powell carried a team in our league for like 4 weeks at the end of the season, but you don't mentally put them in that place. So when you look back at the good and bad of last year, sure, when the season ended, I wanted to stick my head in the sand and pretend that Jason didn't win the championship. But eventually you have to pull it out and reflect and react on the season. And so that's the first thing that we recommend. And Jason, do you have anything that comes to mind that you saw last year?
The thing that comes to mind for me is just the domination of the wide receivers. The top wide receivers were so valuable last year. And so coming forward this year, I'm looking to try to get on my teams 2 of your top wide receivers and try to edge them out that way. That just seems like something that's really going to work this coming year.
All right, so the second tips and tricks.
Yeah, I don't know.
I pluralized the wrong word.
Tip.
All right, the second tip is what?
The second tip is mock it up, baby. This is the time to mock drafts. Mock it up.
Okay.
Mock.
You sound like a chicken right now.
Mock. Yeah.
Not
See?
mock it up like we mocked up the Rams earlier.
No, but
Different
do
mocking.
mock drafts. This is the time of year. Now, I think everybody does, or hopefully everybody that's listening to this show does mock drafts in a couple months when it's getting close to the season, and they'll hop on fantasydraftwizard.com. That's what we use. It's the easiest tool. It's just
That's
so
what we do
quick.
for our live mock draft shows.
Yeah, every mock draft I do is on fantasydraftwizard.com. But you know, that's something that you should be doing now. Just when you're bored, when you're at home, when you've watched the last episode of Better Call Saul and you got nothing to do.
Show hole.
It takes it takes, a couple of minutes to do, but what it allows you to do in the off-season portion is you get to see the changes and the trends of different guys after free agent signings and after, doing it now and then doing it again after the NFL rookie draft. That's going to be a big indicator of who is it whose value is being too hurt or overestimated because of something in the draft. That's what I really like to, you can't do that later. It's just impossible. You either are mock drafting now and then you see the trends later, or you're hopping in later and you're stuck there.
And it doesn't take a lot of time investment to help you get a feel for the ADP of players over the offseason. It's not like you have to go on and do 20 mocks a day. Just do a couple here and there, and you'll get a feel for how players are trending and moving. There are always movers and shakers in the offseason. You saw Kelsey last offseason start rising up the boards. Different players that you don't really recognize. Maybe they're getting hyped, overvalued, things like that. So I think that's a great offseason tip. Make sure you're doing mock drafts periodically. Like we said, we use fantasydraftwizard.com, but there are a number of places you can mock draft. All right, number 3, the third tip here that I have is get your house in order. And what I'm talking about and who I'm talking to are the league commissioners, okay? This is the time you want to sort through the minutia of the rules and the things that you don't want to deal with in week 3 when everyone's confused at how you handle this type of a trade or this type of a circumstance with free agency, or when you say to yourself, boy, I really, really wish we had a fab system instead of a regular waiver system. Let's vote in week 3. No, don't do that. Get your house in order now, and that may also mean your participants in that league. If you had guys that were not participating in the second half of the year or a detriment to your league, sort that out now. Get people lined up now. Maybe you need a league constitution, something simple that just puts things on paper and lets everyone look to a standard of truth for your league. So you don't have to be, everybody wants to pick on commissioners for power trips. That's what happens. You don't need to do that if your league decides the rules, puts it on paper, and you just go, hey, look. There's the rule. There's the rule. It's not me. It's the rule. We decided earlier in the year.
Yeah, that's really smart. Putting those things in the league you're in is very important. And that leads pretty much exactly to the next tip and trick, which is find the right league. If you're not in the right league, find it. I mean, fantasy football is only as fun as the league you're in. I've been in leagues that just stink. They're inactive. People drop out halfway through the year.
Ridiculous rules.
Ridiculous
Remember that
rules.
TD only league?
Oh my gosh! With the kicker only league is what it turned into. So all sorts of things where you've got to be in the right league with the right people, and now is the time where you start finding that. There's a number of ways you can do that. I'd say the best way to do it is with your buddies, with the people you know. Talk to the people near you who love football. Show them podcasts and tell them to listen, because as much fun as it is when you think you can have that unfair advantage in your league, it actually stinks to be in a league where nobody knows what they're doing and there's no competition and there's none of that
Who
fun.
likes the Yankees?
So that's one way. I know for listeners, if you're a supporter of the show and you go to jointhefoot.com, you're one of the official Foot Clan members. We have our Foot Clan leagues that are going to be starting up as well. So there's going to be a forum there to find leagues. You can do it there, but you can do it any number of ways to find a league with good players.
Yeah, and I would add to that, part of finding the right people is not boxing yourself into a league size, because sometimes you've got 7 really good friends that will be active, and you so have an 8-man league.
Yeah.
Don't go, I have to have a 12-man league, so let's fill it with 3 people that aren't going to have any fun, not going to participate, not going to communicate, because part of finding the right league is finding people you communicate with. If you're not talking about the league outside of the draft day, it's not going to be any fun. And there are a lot of people out there that email us and say, hey, how do we get in leagues like the ones you talk about? Well, that's part of the way you do it. And so we're trying to facilitate that as well on the site. But find the right people and don't box yourself into a league size.
Number 5, you got to get yourself connected. The writing's on the wall. I don't know. You got that's a little old. I apologize for that reference. It sounded good before it came out.
Reference.
So what I mean by that is get on Twitter, man.
That's your version of staying connected, right?
That's the best version.
That's the
of
best
staying
version.
connected.
Because
That's ESPN's version of staying connected.
I am connected. I am connected to so many different sources. I mean, this world we live in of being able to interact and one-on-one talk to people that would never ever be accessible to you before something like Twitter. It is incredible. You can follow beat reporters for certain teams, get the inside information before it comes out. Your friends know about it. You can follow places like RotoWorld, us. I mean, like your favorite personalities in the fantasy industry, your sports industry, athletes. I mean, like I said, you can send a message out to your favorite athlete, and there's a chance they might respond to you. And like I've had a few of these moments where I've just there's no way this person's going to reply to me, and then they do, and you're in this conversation with someone who works for like ESPN, and it's ridiculous what you can do with Twitter. So get on there, set it up, and get your follows ready now.
And to add to that, Mike mentioned some of the other websites, getting your podcast set up in the offseason, staying connected to the news. It doesn't take a whole lot to do that. I agree with you. Twitter is the place to be. It's how you can stay connected to the breaking news. I mean, this is a bit of a departure, but I remember growing up. And when I wanted to know whether the Phoenix Suns had won that night, it was wake up in the morning, walk out in the front.
You got to get the paper, see?
Get the paper, go to the table, open the paper up, and read about the game. It's just a totally different paradigm that my kids are growing up in than we did. And Twitter is adding to that, because we had the ridiculous report the other day where Uncle Chaps broke some fake news on Twitter, and then ESPN reported it immediately.
Because that's where they're getting their news. If you want it quickest, you got to get it to Twitter or at least different apps. We've talked about Sports Mania's apps before. There's plenty of good apps, but grab a news source.
And if you want to talk to me, get on Twitter.
There you go. So, all right, number 6, watch the rookies, okay? Watch them. Use your eyeballs and watch them. And that's what I mean when I say that. Literally watch the rookies. There is so much that you can tell from watching the NFL rookies versus just listening to the hype or reading numbers in the combine. I remember a couple of perfect examples. Last year, Mike and Jason could not stop talking about the way David Johnson looked when he played at Northern Iowa on tape. I remember a few years ago when Chris Johnson was drafted, You could watch the tape about Chris Johnson, even though he wasn't the number 1 pick in the draft. You watched the tape and you said, wow, that guy is going to make an impact. And so it's more adding to the equation of when you evaluate rookies. You don't have to be an expert scout on, for an NFL team to watch a player. You all watch football every week. You can watch some of these rookies and compare them with your eyeballs. And so I think that's a really good way. Dynasty League owners, people who are looking, where do I position these guys in the draft? There's a part of it that's where they go and what team they're on. But part of it is just being able to trust your eyes a little bit.
Yeah, and an easy way to do that is, you take 2 or 3 of the same position and you just watch like a highlight film back to back to back in that, because then you can literally compare. It's hard to compare college to the NFL sometimes, but when you're looking in college and you compare one guy's film to another guy's film, you can kind of get an easy tell on some of that stuff. So that is great news for Dynasty people, and that brings us to the next tip, number 7, opportunistic trading.
I like the sound of that.
For Dynasty leagues, for keeper leagues, any league where
make a deal.
Now is open reign to trade. This is a great time to take advantage of trades where you're a little
staying
bit
connected.
You're a little bit more in the know, and you can make a trade. I'll give you a perfect example. Right now, if I'm in a Dynasty league and I've got Jeremy Langford, I am probably looking to move him because his value is built in. He is the number 1 running back. Matt Forte's gone, and a lot of people are saying this is a young guy who's got years ahead of him as the lead back. But we know that some of the
They've
news
made some offers.
Yeah,
they've offered for C.J. Anderson.
Exactly. They are not content
they might draft the running back
to stay put. So that's a situation where I'd like to trade Jeremy Langford before the NFL draft, not afterwards when they draft another running back and you go, uh-oh. And here's the rule with Dynasty drafting. If you can trade a guy with his full potential built into the value of the trade, then it doesn't even matter if it pans out, right? Like let's say you trade Thomas Rawls because someone believes he's going to be a number 1, an RB1.
He ends up one.
And he ends up as an RB1.
But
Who
you
cares?
got RB1 value.
You get the value. Trade guys who have the built-in value and go get some middle-aged vets, not the rookies, not the old guys, who are great and they're great. Do those type of trades in the offseason, and you will help your Dynasty teams greatly.
Yeah, and I'll add to that a good Dynasty strategy that I take into it is the idea of not overvaluing the unknown for the known.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with
Don't
that.
overvalue the unknown because the known seems boring to you. You have to have a balance in every team. You have to have some lottery tickets. You have to have some opportunities, but don't overvalue the unknown for the known. It just doesn't pan out.
Perfect example. A couple weeks ago, we had the listener write in, Todd Gurley versus Ezekiel Elliott. Well,
yes,
Todd
asked
Gurley has answered the unknown with, we now know he's going to be great. Well, Ezekiel Elliott, we expect that he's going to be good, but it's still unknown.
There's so much unknown about Ezekiel, where he lands, those type of things. Could be great, but what's great? Is it Todd Gurley?
You know what's great? Number 8.
Oh,
Listen to your league mates. Also, I call this league scouting.
nice.
Because
League
this is what
scouting.
you know what you can do in your leagues? You can go back to previous years on the history, and you search that little draft report or draft results. How did your teammates draft? This is a huge strategic advantage if you know how somebody is going to draft. Do you see? You look, this guy's in front of me. He loves quarterbacks early, so I know that I can pull the trigger on somebody here because he's going to end up taking a quarterback on the way back. And things like that can really help you if you can see some tendencies of how players in your league are formatting or formatting their draft strategy.
Yeah, and you don't always have to be super granular because some people might say, well, I don't want to dig into every single. Look at league trends. Your league tends to draft quarterbacks at this place. Your league tends to take all of your hometown players in the first 3 rounds.
And even less granular than that, right? Like you're on Facebook with your friends who are in the league. Just when they post something about a player that they like or hate, just remember it. Put that to memory and be like, oh, okay, this guy really thinks, nothing of the Chargers next year, or oh, this guy loves loves the Chargers. He's expecting a big year for them. Just put that in your little brain nugget, the little.
You have a little brain nugget.
Little
We
brain
have
nugget,
brains.
Fortune castle.
Some of
A
us,
fortune castle?
In the brain nugget, and then
okay.
recall it
this
later.
explains so much.
Yeah, I know how I won the championship.
Dang it.
Oh,
Sometimes people get lucky.
All right.
is it there?
Broken
clock is right.
Look, guys, when I say foolish things, which I try to do at least every episode, you need to take it with this next tip, number 9.
Oh, transitions.
A grain of salt. Okay? Take things with a grain of salt. Look, this is the off season. In the off season, there is so much ridiculous news, especially, if we're talking about out of the coach's mouth, the coaches are ridiculous. You cannot trust them. They pretty much usually are going to say all of the best things about their players. This guy's going to be so great. Remember the news about Marcus Wheaton last year from Big Ben Roethlisberger. There's just all of these things that drum people up. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt, and not just the positive stuff. Sometimes the negative stuff as well can be motivation for the player, and it'd be like, oh, we're gonna bring a guy in, and they're gonna have to compete. Maybe that's something they're saying. So you pay attention to this news, but you cannot take it as canon. You can't say this coach said blank, so blank equals
That's another way of
fact.
saying don't overreact necessarily.
Yeah,
because if you take it with a grain of salt, you filter it through all your other information, all the things that you've set up around you to say, okay, this guy had one bad day of OTAs and the coach was down on him. He's off my draft board.
Yeah, take things with a grain of salt in the offseason.
All right, number 10, look, pride comes before the fall. And when we come out and you have an opinion about a player very early in the offseason, sometimes it's hard.
Happens to the best of us.
To not stay with that player in your mind forever and just, you've planted your flag, you've posted in your league forum about how much you like this guy.
Latavius.
Yeah, Latavius Murray. Hey, look, last year for a while, I'll say it embarrassingly, Colin Kaepernick was somebody that I was pretty high on early in the season. That changed in my rankings over the course of the offseason. I wanted to not change. I wanted to stay with Colin Kaepernick. I wanted that glory prediction. But look, number 10 is stay water, okay? Not stone. Be pliable. Be humble with your opinions because you'll end up in a better place when you're the champion and you don't have to be humble anymore. Like Jason. But look, we don't want to declare things too early and then just set yourself up for them. We certainly try to avoid that for your sake. We don't want to come on here and somebody might say, well, you thought that back then. And I said, yeah, but I got new information now. I found something else out. They signed a new running back to share the backfield with him. They got a coach that wants to do this. They drafted a running back.
Did you hear when I had to throw myself at the mercy of the court with the sad music and I had to apologize to Devontae Freeman? I did it.
How did that feel?
It felt terrible and great at the same time because it takes a big person to admit when they were wrong, and I was wrong.
And you're a big person. Just ask Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not the fat guy this episode. This is great.
It's, you guys can rotate the title. All right, so quick recap of the tips and tricks. Reflect and react. Make sure that you're paying attention to what you did last year that was good and bad and what the trends were. Mock it up. Make sure you're doing some mock drafts. Get a sense of the ADP. Get your house in order. That means get your league in order. Get your rules in order. Find the right league. Jason mentioned that. We're trying to help you guys out with that on jointhefoot.com. But find good people to play with. Then you'll enjoy the season. Mike brought up stay connected. Get on Twitter. Get connected to the experts. Get listening to podcasts. Pay attention in the offseason. Get connected for the regular season. I brought up watching the rookies. Keep your eye on them, literally. Watch some video. That'll help you make a determination if guys are really close in your mind. That led into some dynasty discussion. Number 7, opportunistic trading. Take advantage of potential and get value that you know is there. Number 8, listen to your league mates. Mike talked about this. Pay attention to league trends and team trends in your league, and that helps you with the draft season. Number 9, take things with a grain of salt. The coaches, they love coach speak. so does the media. The media likes to really ramp up small news, make it big news, take it with a grain of salt. And number 10, stay pliable. And I think that's a great way to end that list. Be subject to new information, change your opinion, change your rankings, be pliable, be water.
If you put water in a cup,
yeah,
it becomes the cup. If you put water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle.
Yeah.
I was going a little Bruce Lee on you.
Oh,
I apologize.
Thanks for another old reference. All right,
what? Bruce Lee is always current and awesome.
Mailbag.
Yeah!
All right, we're going to answer some questions. I think there are some good ones in this mailbag here today. If you want to ask one of your own, you go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click on the Submit a Question button or go to your phone and dial 302-464-TFFB. You can leave us a voicemail question. Got a few of each on today's show, so we're going to dig in, see if we can help out some of the listeners. We're going to start with a voicemail question. Here it is.
Hey, guys, this is Flip from Pennsylvania. I wanted to let you know I love the show. It's my first year of listening. Foot Clan title. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I do have to tell you guys, I don't really have a question, but I just have to tell you, I recently found an even more funnier, yes, I said more funnier, way to listen to your show.
That's how Jason would say it.
And that is on half speed. There is nothing more hilarious than hearing the mailbag screamed at half speed. I giggle like a schoolgirl. It's fantastic. I find myself listening to it like that even more and more. Of course, I listen to it first and then re-listen to it at half speed. Thanks so much for all the entertainment and for getting me my title, guys. Can't wait for next year.
I've heard the comment about the half speed before and checked it out, and it is extremely funny.
That's the 11th tip and trick. If you want to,
I haven't checked out the mailbag drop in half speed, so that is I got to put that on my list to do.
No,
Yeah, someone post that on Twitter for us. I want to see the mailbag drop on half speed if you got the time for it.
Someone sent in one last year with me talking about AJ Green's gonna be a really good player
and
this year.
You also got the tip from that last caller that if you want to win your hashtag Foot Clan title, you listen to us once, and then you listen to us twice on half speed. No, that was it. That was it. Yeah.
All right. Here's a real question.
Hey, footballers. It's Matt from Miami calling in to draw on your collective infinite wisdom.
Ooh.
I'm in 3 leagues that are going
Well
on their
said.
10th, 7th, and 6th years, respectively. However, despite these leagues' long, storied history, every offseason is the same. During the owners' meetings for these leagues, inevitably they devolve into mini sessions of Congress, with each owner pushing an agenda and lobbying for support. The bickering is incessant. So I call on the highest court in the fantasy football land to make a decree. Footballers, what is the undisputable best league format and rule set? How many teams? 8, 10, 12, auction or draft, scoring, standard, half, or full PPR? Is it keeper or non-keeper? If it's a keeper, how many? 1, 2, 3. What's the penalty for keeping them? Who can be kept? What happens to free agent claims? What positional slots? How many of each? 2 wide receivers, 3 wide receivers? How many flexes? How many bench spots, IR spots? And how many teams make the playoffs? And what's the playoff format? And finally, when should you have a trade deadline? Any clarification on this is much appreciated.
Wow.
Go Fins.
Sounds like the next episode will be filled up.
Well, I can tell you this. We actually, ironically, talked about it, our Foot Clan leagues that we're going to be doing, but we'll have kind of a sheet in there of what we kind of say is, what we think is the best type of league. And while there is no best, because
I think it's fun to pretend.
it's fun
there
to
is a
pretend.
best.
So here,
You guys are crazy. There's a best.
yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. There's a best. And here's the best. All right, here we go. I'll give as much as I can on the best. You guys correct me or add to it.
Okay.
Here is the best. For sure, it's half-point PPR.
I was going to say, start with the scoring system.
Is half-point PPR. Full point is too much. Standard is stupid. Half-point PPR for the win.
Come on now.
No, we're going.
Shots have been fired.
All right. You got 2 running backs. You got 2 wide receivers.
New politics.
You got a flex and a tight end. You've got 1 quarterback, a defense. I would say no kicker, but we'll go ahead and let the kicker be in there. 5 bench spots. It's going to be a keeper league so that the offseason matters. You're going to keep 3 keepers, and you're going to have a penalty based on where you draft them. You give up the draft round of where you got them, every year. It's 2 rounds ahead of that. If you got a guy off of waivers, you do not get him for the last pick in the draft. I say throw him back in the draft. Let him be drafted.
He can't be kept?
Can't be kept. Can't be kept. Let's make this hardcore and value your draft. If nobody drafted him, he doesn't get to be kept.
ADP minus a round.
I like that as well. I do like that as well. 6 teams make the playoffs. Half your league. Half of the 12 team. That's the sweet number if you can get 12 good teams. Half of your league makes the playoffs.
How many IR spots?
2 IR spots, 5 bench spots.
Trade deadline's week 8.
Agree. Early trade deadline because it's a keeper league. You don't want people tanking.
Weeks 14 through 16 are your playoffs. 2 teams will get a bye.
Yep. 1 week playoffs.
1 week playoffs.
All right.
We nailed it. All right.
And if you do it differently,
hopefully.
that's cool too. All right. Ben in Pittsburgh. He's in a 10-team league expanding to 12 teams. It's a PPR league. I have to keep, I get to keep 2 players as my 15th and 16th round picks. My options are Eddie Lacy, Des Bryant, Kelvin Benjamin, Michael Floyd, and Josh Gordon, with declarations in August. Additionally, after the 2 new teams select keepers, I have the first round pick in the draft.
Well. I could have said you could stop reading after the first 2 names because that's who I would go with. But because you can wait until August.
You're going to change. You're not putting Gordon over Dez, are you?
No, I would put Gordon possibly above Lacy.
Would you?
Yeah.
You go with the aforementioned strategy
because
of
the PPR league?
elite.
Correct. A PPR with dual elite.
I'll actually just
wide
take Lacy
receivers.
and Bryant.
Yeah, I will as well. All of that being said, if I can have Eddie Lacy and Des Bryant, that's your clear keepers.
All right, Josh in Harrisburg. I am the second pick in a very deep league to quarterback league, by the way.
3 wide receivers.
Yeah. If he falls, I want Antonio Brown, but if he's gone, with so many questions at the RB spot, do I pull the trigger on a quarterback like Cam Newton or a wide receiver like Julio, Hopkins, and Odell? In this league, you can keep any 2 or any player for 2 spots above where you drafted them.
I would still, even though it's a 2 quarterback league, I would still take the elite level wide receiver, Julio, Hopkins, Odell. I know that quarterbacks go a lot earlier in a 2 quarterback, and I'm not saying you have to wait forever, but there's a sweet spot of guys like that tend to be cast into the fantasy trash pile, like Tony Romo, Phillip Rivers, these older guys who think, there's no way they're going to get it done again. They are because they're veterans who know how to play the game. So you can wait a little bit, and then you have the advantage with a Beckham or a Julio Jones.
All right.
I'm gonna say I would absolutely take a quarterback there.
A quarterback?
A quarterback.
So you would
in
take
a
a Newton.
2 quarterback league.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think a
That makes
Newton or an Aaron Rodgers is a guy that is just so indispensable for those leagues. Here's what I would recommend, Josh. Go back and look at your last several championships and see who their quarterbacks were, and I promise
that's
you
fair.
they're always going to have one of the best.
All right, Nick in Michigan says, I'm in a keeper league with offseason trading where any players traded in the offseason are required to be kept for the next year. About a week before the Marty suspension news came out, Mr. Bryant was one player dealt in a trade.
Ooh.
The commission now wants to retroactively put a rule in that does not count Marty against the new owner's keeper count for 2016. Neither the commissioner or myself are involved in the trade. However, I contest that suspensions and injuries are an inherent risk of offseason trading. What are your thoughts?
This is amazing because we had this exact same dilemma in our league with Josh Gordon. We actually lost.
Last year.
We lost a team because of it, where the keeper, and it was worse than this, where the keeper declaration was in Josh Gordon. The next day, Josh Gordon was suspended for the entire year. Now, the way our league did it, you kept him, you deal with the consequences. You make the deals in the offseason, you live with it. These are things that happen and suck.
Now,
it sucks to be that guy.
I will say this. Our league was a little bit different because what we had just done in our situation was we had bypassed the normal rule to keep guys earlier than normal, and we had done so saying well, I accept the risk that's involved. Because the risk that we thought was involved was the NFL draft changing who you would keep. We did it before the draft for some players. Well, then the next day, Josh Gordon got suspended, and people were like, no, you can't change it now. You literally just said you were going to accept that. So for me, I go back and forth on this question, but I would say you just vote.
Vote.
Yeah, that would be the solution that's most amicable in the league. I will say this. If you start giving ways around this, it is a slippery slope.
Oh, the slippery slope.
You do have an inherent risk with Marty McBride. He was already suspended. When is it okay to give a guy when the injury happens then?
Yeah.
If the injury's 8 weeks of the season or 10 weeks or the full season, or when a guy's suspended for partial games or not partial.
Here's what the vote is. The vote is to undo that rule, not make an exception to that rule. You don't vote and say, should we just let this one slide? You vote and say, should we have trading in the offseason, not have to have the player kept?
Yeah. Otherwise, you got to probably live with it.
Yep.
So
or a buffer. You say there's a 1 to 2 week buffer zone where if something catastrophic happens, but that's something you got to vote on.
Andrew Z in North of the Wall.
Andrew Z is not going to get our message.
He's north of the wall in a dangerous lane.
Good luck.
I love the idea of streaming, but last year I felt I made a mistake of using waiver position to stream. Later in the year, I realized I needed to make some moves in waivers, primarily because Cheeseburger Eddie is large,
Dude,
and my priority,
I want a cheeseburger.
I do too, was way down because I had been streaming from the waivers. Do you guys recommend waiting until waivers pass to grab a quarterback for the week, or should I continue this practice to make sure? That is a great question.
Yes.
And very, very often you should wait on your streaming quarterback.
I completely agree. That's how I do it. I wait until the waivers have cleared, and I don't burn my priority trying to get the guy because there's generally 3 or 4 guys on the waiver wire that I'm perfectly happy to play. Now, every once in a while, you'll come into a situation and you'll see like a Kirk Cousins was going up against the Saints, and you go, This is a slam dunk. I have to win this week. Then I'm okay burning the priority in that situation if you don't have another option. But for the most part, don't kill your priority for your streamer.
Yeah, and the essence of that is that streaming is not a desperation move. You're not. You're approaching it with
power.
You
are in the power
with
position.
the idea that it's not. I can only stream one guy and I have to grab him. No, you can stream multiple guys. That's the point. If there's only one guy everybody fought for every week, we wouldn't recommend streaming at all. So, all right, but good question, Andrew. That is a great one, and I would recommend what Mike just said.
Also, I would like to thank Andrew for bringing up the beautiful words cheeseburger. I think this is the time we need to wrap the show. I'm starving.
In like foil?
and some Five Guys foil.
And Andrew Z, get some Dragon Glass.
Yeah, that'll help you out north of the wall. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Show after the show coming up soon. And we'll be back next Tuesday. So
yeah, that's when we'll be back.
That is true. See you later.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.